Hi, I'm Joey Barone, and this is the Joey Barone Podcast. For all you first-time viewers, I want to thank you for joining us. For all the viewers that are returning, thanks for popping by for the second episode. I appreciate your support. If you can like and subscribe to the channel. And I hope you guys enjoy episode 2. Without further ado, my second guest on the show is my very great friend, Jett Yaskow. I want to I appreciate you coming by and stopping by the show.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I'm excited and I'm honored to be on here. I appreciate you asking me. I love what you've done so far.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. How you been doing lately?
I've been doing good.
Yeah?
Doing good. Absolutely.
How's life?
Life is pretty good. It's the start of fall. It's a little crispy today. Our first full day of fall, and it kind of hit us a little bit. Mm-hmm. I've been used to a great summer, and not looking forward to shoveling snow. Gotta be honest.
Mm-hmm. So me and you have known each other how long? Like roughly 2 years?
About 2 years.
Originally how me and you first met is me and my brother were both very into the film community here in Buffalo, and my brother was shooting a music video, so he had reached out on Facebook and the group for the people that are filmmakers in Buffalo, and he said, does anyone have a cop car? And I know you got a lot of toys at home. You got the Starsky and Hutch car, the Batmobile from the show from the 60s.
I take that he who dies with the most toys wins very seriously.
And then you got the Dukes of Hazzard car that you're kind of fixing up and stuff. So you got a lot of toys. So my brother had reached out to you, and he's like, "Can I borrow your cop car?" Which originally wasn't even a cop car. Essentially, it was a Dodge Charger that you had makeshiftedly put the light bar on top with the cage in the back with the rad straps. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Well, technically, it was a cop car. I got it from the police auction. It was an undercover detective's car. And so it has the police package and the police motor and the police suspension, and it goes fast. But yeah, it didn't have a light bar. Mm-hmm. So I got a light bar and we wired it up and we put in the siren, and yeah. So when people need vehicles like that, that's what I try and do. I've been in the car business for most of my life. I used to organize and run car shows locally, and so I have lots of contacts. So if somebody's shooting something locally and they need a cop car, they need a taxi cab, they need a fire truck or something, they can get a hold of me and I can find them the vehicles that they need.
You have your own kind of thing going on then. That's called TV and Movie Cars for Hire.
Yep, TV and Movie Cars for Hire, and is spelled out.
Okay, yeah. And then they got a website for that as well?
Got a website,
So
got a Facebook
we can put
page.
that website at the bottom of the screen. Check that out. If you guys, some of you live in Buffalo, I'm assuming a lot of you guys from Buffalo are going to be checking this out. So if you ever are shooting an independent project or something, take a look at the website. Give him a call. His number and stuff will be on the site. All his information. One of the easiest guys to work with. Superb guy right here. So I'm assuming you wish you could say the same about me, right?
I wish I could. I really do. I can't.
So tell me a little bit about you and where you kind of grew up and stuff, and explain a little bit about that.
Well, I'm a Pisces. I like long walks on short beaches. Let's see. Grew up on the east side of Buffalo, east side. But I kind of grew up everywhere because all of my closest friends lived in South Buffalo, Lovejoy, and stuff like that. So I was kind of, my house was in the east side. I kind of grew up all over West
Your
Buffalo.
house was in Lovejoy, or your house was somewhere else?
No, my house is on the east side over by the old Central Terminal, the old railroad terminal.
All right.
Which, side note, real quick, my dad worked there as a railroad cop, and my grandmother used to work there in the coffee shop from 1950 until it closed in 77.
Sure.
And she used to tell me all these great stories of serving coffee to everybody from Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. Everybody came through. Back in those days, they traveled by rail. So all the celebrities, if they were going across country, they would get in New York City, and the first stop would be here at the Central Terminal in Buffalo. So they'd all get out, stretch their legs, and yeah. So my grandmother had so many great stories, all these amazing celebrities she met.
So what kind of jobs did you kind of have when you were younger?
I think everybody does their first job, which is delivering pizzas.
So generic,
Yeah, you want to strive to be the best. And speaking of Lovejoy, so that's where I worked. Pizza Queen was the name of the pizza joint on Lovejoy.
Where was that, roughly?
It was almost right on the corner of Lovejoy and Ogden.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, that was that was a unique experience
So
for a young lad such as myself.
So Lovejoy is like, that's a very small area.
Yeah.
So you know, was there like in Lovejoy, was there like certain areas you kind of hit specifically with delivering the pizzas, or was it kind of all over?
A little bit of all over, but I would say mainly up and down Lovejoy. You know, a lot of businesses, a lot of bars.
Rite Aid, 7-Eleven.
Rite Aid, 7-Eleven, absolutely. Yeah, so kind of all over Lovejoy area.
You make good tips?
Yes, I did. It depended on the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, let me. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not, but you got to remember now. This is going back a little ways.
How ways back?
So this was the '90s,
mm-hmm.
and things were a little different back then. And I used to have to do a lot of deliveries to the bars on Lovejoy.
On Lovejoy Street.
On Lovejoy, and let's just say they were family owned. So
what do you imply by saying that, there, my friend?
So I remember, like, you know, hey, I'm delivering your pizza, and they were like, go around to the back. Like, oh god.
Okay, I see what I know.
Jumped or something.
Yeah.
And it's like something out of The Sopranos. You knock on the door and like a little thing said, yeah, what do you want? I got your pizza.
Yeah.
Come on in. And then, you know, it's funny. They're all sitting around and playing their, you just see this cloud of cigars.
And then you deliver, and they're like, all right, skedaddle.
Yeah, no. They were always, once they got to know me, they kind of like, you know, like, hey, you're a good kid. You're a good kid. Here's an extra 100 for you. Like, oh, whoa, okay.
Did you ever end up chatting up with Marlon Brando, the Godfather, ever, or no?
No, but I would. That's how I learned to speak for a while. I used to walk around going, I just want to tell you, Joey, that I really enjoy this pizza. The pepperoni is fantastic.
So, real quick, and every time I say real quick, it always turns into, you know.
Guys, it's gonna be a while.
What do you remember any of the specific places on Lovejoy like that you would deliver, and do you know if any are still around on that street?
I don't. I haven't been down there in a while, and for you know, respect for the family, you know, we'll just say that no, I can't remember any of that.
Mm-hmm. So you also, other than doing a lot of filming stuff here in Buffalo, you're also a firefighter.
Yes.
Like a full-fledged firefighter here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then what house is that?
I work downtown, and we're kind of like the busy district because we cover all of downtown.
Yeah.
And then we cover Lower East Side, Lower West Side, Lower South Side, First Ward area. So kind of have like probably one of the biggest districts in Buffalo is our company. Yeah. And then it's funny because especially during the Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, I can't tell you how many times a day we go to stuck elevators in the buildings downtown. And then we usually get called for city court. And it's funny how people pass out or have a seizure right as they're about to get found guilty. It's strange how that happens.
Yeah. Without being too vulgar here and not sharing too much, I know we talked a little bit about this the other day, and you kind of had given me a couple examples that were kind of a little bit vulgar. But what is like one of the weirdest, more you know, appropriate for the podcast? What's one of the weirdest calls you have ever gotten to? I know we talked a little bit about the other day. Those examples were kind of, I don't think we should share, but what's one of the more toned down, funniest calls you've ever kind of? But it's you guys in the full-fledged truck though, so you have like 4 or 5 people with you. So what's like one of the most awkward calls or funny calls that you've ever had?
It never seems to fail. There's 2 calls that seem to come all the time. Number 1 is the 400-pound naked woman who slid off the toilet and is stuck now between the toilet and her sink, and we have to try and get her out and, you know.
I feel like you're just joking about that.
No, I wish I was. But no. And that's when you send in the young rookies that have been working out. Hey, grab an arm, grab a leg, you know.
Yeah, and then have you done any type of cats and trees or anything?
Actually have
Nah.
rescued cats from trees, rescued cats from rooftops, and once we actually rescued a kitten who slid down the heat duct from the second floor of their house into the furnace, but it was summertime, so it wasn't on.
Okay,
But
thank God.
they just get, we go in the house and she's like, my cat's down in the heater, and you hear this weird echo from the basement, like, because it's echoing throughout the whole heating duct.
Yeah.
So we're trying to like fish like wire and like a small rope to get around the body, and we finally got the kitten out. So yeah, fun stuff.
So, is being a firefighter hard?
Yes and no.
I mean, it's worth it because you make really good salary.
Well, for the longest time we didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I got on the job is when the city was put under a wage freeze. So for almost 10 years, I didn't even make a penny increase.
Really?
Yeah, that's when we had the control board step in and take care of everything, and they put a wage freeze on all of us, that are basically, I could have made more money working at Walmart for a lot of my career. People would be like, you're running into burning buildings for that kind of cash? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So. But nowadays, fantastic. Love the job. We're actually getting paid a decent salary. And it's one of those things like my buddies always say that have known me since grammar school, like, we all said when we were 4 that we're going to be fired when we grow up. And they're like, you're the only one that did it. Like, I knew when I was young, that's all I wanted to do. It was either that or a rock
and
star.
you stuck with that goal, so that's awesome.
I did. I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
So it's kind of like, you set your mind to it, then you accomplished it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we've talked about this before about focusing on something, and I was mentioning to you that I've seen lots of interviews with people from the Olympics who've won golds and from the Olympics, and they all say the same thing. I envisioned it. Every day I envisioned me winning that gold. Mm-hmm. And that can be applied to every aspect of your life. If you sincerely envision it, you can make it happen.
What else can you tell me just about growing up and stuff as well? The reason I kind of transitioned back to that is because it's interesting, to kind of get a perspective on someone that's older, if you will. Don't laugh or hate me by me saying that, but I'm glad me and you have our friendship. We do a lot of fun stuff together. You have a dirt bike at your house. Mm-hmm. And you've been teaching me how to play the drums, which I kind of suck at it, but I'm getting there.
You're getting better.
Yeah,
you're getting better.
I appreciate you saying that. But so what else? How was your home life growing up? Like your parents and you always tell me you get along with them really well.
I was absolutely blessed.
Yeah.
I had the best home life. My parents were the cool parents. My house was the house that after school everybody congregated to. My dad was the guy, as soon as he pulled in from work, he'd be out there with us on the street throwing the football, playing baseball. He was just like, everybody loved it. Mom's in there making, I got cookies, So I was lucky enough to be born in a family that was loving and caring and close and,
mm-hmm.
And just a great childhood, great upbringing.
And now, did you have any high school sweethearts or any what were your relationships like? Not to be too personal, I guess you got to be a little bit personal here, but have you ever been married? And do you have any kids and all that?
I did. I got married. I got married young, way too young. We knew each other when we were teenagers.
I was just about to ask how old were you when you got married?
So I was 22, which is way too young, people. I love
how you directly look at the camera.
Yeah, because you don't really know who you are. You're still growing as a person. You haven't even settled into who you really are. But I had such a great family life that I couldn't wait to start a family.
Yeah,
right. Be like a dad now.
Sure.
So we did. We had one daughter, and it of course it didn't work out, unfortunately. Like I said, I was 22, she was 20, too young to get married. People change, So had to go through the divorce thing, and
Let me ask you that, because every time a relationship ends,
Yeah.
absolutely horrible, very, very hard.
Right.
We have talked kind of in depth a little bit, just because, about that stuff. But how was that? Not even just, mentally, but how is that? Kind of going through a divorce. What advice can you kind of give in that aspect? Because you kind of had a good upbringing, so it's not like you kind of, I wouldn't say you kind of suffer from, too much stuff that's detrimental to you, but definitely divorce. How was that?
So the thing is when I was going through it, even though I guess in the back of my mind I knew it was the best thing, when you're going through it, you think the whole world is crashing down on you.
Right.
You're like no one else knows what I'm going through.
Did you cry a lot?
I probably did.
I mean, you're not a big crier in general.
I'm not a big crier in general, but I mean, definitely was.
Only when I call you or want to hang out with you.
Yeah, that's true. And when I give you the bill and you laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it is. It's crushing because the rest of the world's going on, but you think your world's crushing in, and everybody else should stop and go, hey, pay attention.
I'm here for you. Yeah.
No, pay attention because my world's crushing. So I want everybody to work with
so
me.
Was that when you were dealing with that? Were you was your mindset like, it isn't working out. I got to end it and I got to accept it and move on. Like, how do you, like, cause how long did you know your ex-wife before you even married her? Like, were you guys together in high school? Like, did you know each other for like?
No. No, didn't know her that long. It was probably like 2 or 3 years.
But then you were married for how many years?
7.
So like that's 9 years of knowing someone. How do you you're like, good job doing math. No.
Fantastic.
Yeah. You can take a sip of your water.
Tune in next week where we'll work on colors.
You can take a sip of your water real quick while I'm asking you this question. Now you've been trying. Oh shit. Was that just something you just kind of are like, well, fuck, like now I gotta just accept this? Because how do you look at 9 years with someone and be like, okay, like it's time to accept this now? That's the big word, accept. How do you kind of move towards that?
Well, and that's what happens is it's time. As time goes on, you realize, okay, so she changed, and unfortunately, she changed in a way that was not good for me or my daughter.
And you tried to be there for her?
Tried to be there for her. You can't, I called it, that was my big realization, I called it the Elvis moment. Because I remember thinking, I was a huge fan of Elvis, and I remember thinking, how can this guy who's got 20 people around him all day long, how can this guy get into this drug habit and then basically kind of...
Elvis, you mean?
Yeah, Elvis. And basically overdose on drugs and, go down that hole. And I'm like, how? When you've got such a support group around you, 20 people, 24/7.
So let me ask you this. How did that happen to him?
Well...
Before we go back to your wife.
How did that happen to him?
Yeah, like what's your opinion on that?
Oh,
how does that happen with him?
So I was lucky enough to become friends for a little while with Joe Esposito, who was Elvis's best friend, and we used to do some events and do things in Las Vegas, and I got to talk to him a lot about it. And he said Elvis truly believed that he was not on drugs because his were prescription. So he wasn't doing cocaine or heroin or something like that or smoking up. But he didn't realize that his prescription drugs were just as bad as street drugs. So he would get so defensive when people would say, well, hey, you're acting crazy. I think it's the drugs. And he'd be like, no, these are prescription drugs. These are what my doctor prescribed for me. So that's when I finally learned. It was like, wait a minute. No matter how bad those 20 people around and Elvis wanted him to get better, that was the same way I felt towards my ex-wife. I wanted her to get better. My daughter wanted her to get better, but you can't make somebody change unless they're willing to change. So
did you, if you don't mind me asking here, did your wife suffer from mental illness?
She was diagnosed with bipolar.
Okay, bipolar disorder.
Bipolar, yeah, right.
And so, what can you kind of give advice as far as people with mental illness? And I would just I'm assume work on those issues, because if you don't work on them, nothing's going to change. Correct?
Absolutely. absolutely.
What do you have to say a little bit about that?
So, a lot of my friends have some different types of mental illnesses, and some of them I didn't even know for years. I've known them for years and didn't even know, and then it finally came up. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that you have to be proactive with it. You have to find the right doctors. You have to find the right type of, especially like when she was diagnosed with bipolar, I would notice like one day I would come home from work and she would be all happy and be great and here's dinner, and then the next day she was a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
And when the doctor said we want to put you on a medication to regulate that, I was like, no, I was all against medications. No, because now I'm dealing with somebody medicated, I'm not dealing with the true person. But when I finally relented and she got on medication and she evened out, it was like so great. It was like the old person I used to know. And then I realized, okay, it's like high blood pressure or something else. It's a physical disease that needs to be treated.
Right. You just can't like.
Yeah, you can't just like,
you can't raw dog it here.
Exactly. Right.
So that's. Did she ever kind of fall back though? Because I guess what my point is when people don't change their issues or work on their issues, nothing in their life is going to change. So they'll continue to go down that hole and dig themselves deeper. And I think one of the key things is realizing you have those issues.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they always joke, admitting that you have a problem is the first step, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's true. The problem is that a lot of people will, and this is what happened with my ex. We got her on the medication, and the doctor even said, "Listen, what's going to happen is like most people on any type of medication, eventually your body's going to get used to that medication and that dosage, and your body's going to start to wean off of it. Like it's not going to have the same effect over time." So you have to work closely with your doctor to change your prescriptions, change your dosage that is going to be acclimated to your body so that you remain even keel. And a lot of people, though, when they get into it, at first they do good, but after time they just go, they just lose the energy on working at it. And like, it's tough. It's something you have to work at,
And then if people don't want to change, what happens?
Well, that's why I said it's the Elvis thing. That's when I finally realized, you can't make someone, no matter how bad you want somebody else to change for the better.
Right.
If they don't want to do it, it's not going to happen.
So then you walk away at that point?
Well, there comes a breaking point. I stayed with her for like a couple of years. Got her into different treatments and went to meetings with her and tried to be supportive. But when they walk away and they don't care enough, there's only
especially with her though, it's like she knew that she had those issues. She wasn't really into fixing them, correct?
Correct.
So then that's why you at that point you had to kind of be like, you know what?
Yeah.
There's only so much that I can do.
Exactly.
I can't. It's like you can. You always hear that saying, perfect saying. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
That's exactly.
So let me ask you this: what, even not just for your wife, but people in general, what needs to happen in their lives for them to kind of come online, so to speak, and be like, okay, well, fuck, like that. Like, do you believe bad things have to happen? Like, because we've talked about this in depth before, but like sometimes people don't even realize. So it's like what needs to happen? I mean, maybe nothing, but
well, you hope that you've got some type of family or friends around you that aren't afraid to go, hey, wake up. God damn it,
Yeah.
I see you going down this hole. I'm trying to give you a hand. I'm trying to help you. And you're looking at me going, and you just keep going down. So you got to hope that the person that's going through this, 9 out of 10 times you hear the same story. It wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I finally changed,
And what could that look like for someone?
Oh God! I mean, that could be everything. Losing everything you own, living on the streets, ended up, overdosing and being dead, and being able to be brought back or something. Just everything. I mean, something that like your whole life you realize you can't. There's nowhere else to go now except up. And then, unfortunately, like I said, 9 out of 10 times it takes somebody to reach rock bottom. But hopefully, if you can reach these people before they get to rock bottom, and they can hopefully change for the better before having to hit that.
A lot of the times, a lot of a lot of shit that happens that you got to take into consideration is how people are raised.
Oh, absolutely. You're a product of your environment. Definitely. We're all a product of our environment.
But that doesn't necessarily mean you can turn out to be how you're raised. You can always change, correct?
Yeah, but it's tough. Because,
why is that tough?
Because if you come from an abusive alcoholic family, that's your reality. That's your reality. That's your life, and that's why it's a pattern, and it gets passed down from generation to generation to generation.
Would you agree that even for the majority of human beings, they are a product of their environment? Do those type of people normally end up, or is there those select few that can kind of get past that and kind of mature and?
And you hit the nail on the head. That it is few. A majority just.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because it's so hard. It's so much harder to change. You're basically
like us as a human. You're like, okay, I know I have these issues. It's hard for me to change. That's what you're saying. That's hard for people to realize that.
Yeah, and a lot of people. The first thing is to them.
Yeah, just anyone in general that has issues.
Yeah, well, to them, like if their dad was an abusive alcoholic and this person, you now become an abusive alcoholic, to you, that's just normal.
Okay.
Because that's what you've been around. So you think, well, everybody's like this, right? And you think, well, this is how I was raised, so it must be okay. To finally step back and go, wait a minute, this isn't the reality I want for myself. I don't want to be an abusive alcoholic. Now you've got the thought, but to actually put that into action and go, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. Have you ever seen anybody go through withdrawals on drugs and alcohol? It's terrible, right? And a lot of people, they start going through it and they withdraw and they go, no, I can't do this. It hurts too much. I need my medication. So it's a select few that are able to finally go, all right, I'm making a change and I'm going to stick with it.
As I crack open a beer.
As he cracks open a beer. Cue the beer.
Patch Blue Ribbon. No. What do you? Meanwhile, you're being a good boy here, drinking Poland Spring water. This is a good conversation. I'm like how we're able to kind of touch upon a more serious subject here. For the viewers and stuff. Not just alcoholism, but I think mental illness in general.
Yeah, anything that you're going through. Anything that you're going through that you want to change. Only you have the ability to change it. You can't rely on somebody else to change you. You have to do it yourself.
Sometimes people don't even realize that the bad things that they're doing are bad. And why is that? Because they're clouded by what exactly, you think?
Well, like I said, it's
It's seeming to think people. Sorry, not to interrupt. Well, you're like you did anyway.
So yeah, the floor's all yours.
I think not even just alcoholism, but other things in general, like I think you're clouded by what's going on, and then that kind of makes you not make the best decisions. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, your reality is your reality. So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you're relying on alcohol to take that pain away, that is your reality, unfortunately. But nobody else is going to be able to change your reality. You have to change it. You have to get to that point where you go, enough's enough. I mean, is this how I really want to feel and be? Or do I want something better? And then then it's that long, slow climb up the ladder out of the pit to get back up,
And some people may not even know where to begin to start doing those things.
That's true.
So then they'll stay like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hey, I didn't know we were having a counseling session here.
I know, me neither. I thought I was going to be telling some jokes.
Yeah,
some magic tricks.
What the fuck, dude? I've always appreciated you being there for me as a friend. I know I'm like one of the most hardest bastards to deal with. Not just, all kidding aside here, I'm appreciative of you always being there for me. Dude, like, I know I do kind of, I very much so look up to you as like a father figure, because my father wasn't there around too much,
right.
Growing up. So, you've kind of got me out of my shell. We you have dirt bikes, you have a lot of acres of land, and you have dirt bike. And remember there was that one time where, I think it was like last year sometime, I crashed it. And this is the thing. This is the thing I absolutely love about you is you're such a genuine, like, caring dude. Where, like, because this is when I was learning how to ride,
Right.
and I think I gave you too much gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're standing there, and I crashed in the bushes, and all I could think in my mind was like, well, fuck, dude, he's gonna yell at me. Like, he's literally, I just crashed his dirt bike, and it wasn't even broken. Like, nothing even on it broke, and I'm appreciative that you didn't flip out on me for that. But was that funny to you to see that happen for the first time?
I wouldn't say it was funny because I was hoping you were okay because
Mm-hmm.
1 minute you're in front of me and you're asking me to get some footage.
I'm pretty sure I gave you my camera.
You gave me, and you were like, get some footage of me driving and looking cool. I'm
Like
all right.
my actual camera. And then as I'm sitting there, I could have broke my arm or anything. I'm sitting there in the bushes and I yelled at you, dude, just take a photo of me real quick. And I will put the photo up on the screen. I'm sitting there in the bushes. And the bike's like crashing into the tree.
Well, but it was funny because I'm looking through a viewfinder. I got you in frame, coming through, looking like Evel Knievel, really cool. And then you come out of frame, but I wanted to keep it and kind of fade out. And then all of a sudden I heard, and I look over, and I don't see you anymore in the dirt bike, but I see in the woods like a flock of birds flying off, a couple of tree branches coming down.
Yeah.
So I was like, holy crap, are you okay?
Yeah. And then I'm like, dude, just take a photo of me.
Yeah, take a photo. I'm like, okay, I think he's all right. I know, but in all seriousness, some dads, if that was, teaching their son or something,
I'll tell you right now, my dad would have flipped the fuck out of me.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I remember like there was a couple times when like I was a child and shit, and because my mom and dad divorced when I was very young as well, and that was a very challenging time for me. But I think there was a time too where I think I spilled like a thing of milk on his kitchen table, and he flipped out, and it's like it's like really, come on.
Accidents happen.
Exactly.
Accidents happen in life, It's not like you meant to do it on purpose, right?
Is there any advice? I know we pretty much had a whole counseling session here on this episode of this podcast, but very informative, very, very informative.
Look out, Dr. Phil, coming after you, taking your spine.
Dr. Joey Barone.
Doctor.
Any other advice you can kind of give? Just anything in general that, I'm sure in your experience you have years worth of advice. What's something you think people should really know? Which I think in general is also a really good question.
The biggest thing I've learned is try to take a step back and walk a mile in the other person's shoes first. Before you judge somebody, just, like I say, don't judge a book by its cover. If you see some homeless guy sitting on the street, most people are like, oh, what a pathetic waste.
Yeah.
But then say you get to have a conversation with him, and he's like, I used to have it all. I was a stockbroker. I had a yacht. I had 7 cars. I had 2 houses. And then it bottomed out, and then I lost everything. Then my wife left me. She took everything I owned. There's a story. Everybody has a story.
And I'll touch a little bit upon that because there's been some shit that I've dealt with that has been unfortunate. And instead of being an absolute prick and just fucking giving up on me and being judgmental, so to speak, like you're saying, you've been right there through me, buddy. So
right.
So I love you. I love you for being there for me. And that goes back to what you're saying. Don't judge people, because me and you have already been friends and shit. Some of this shit, and you've been there for me, which right. I think everybody in general needs someone like that in their life, to kind of guide them and just a friend, That's why you're one of my best friends, because you have a lot of patience.
Yeah. And like I've brought up before, we've talked about this numerous times. Yes, I was blessed to have a loving, caring family life.
I thought you were about to say you're blessed to have me as a friend.
No. You're so cute. No. I was blessed to have a loving, caring family life, good morals, good values. I think that to me, it sucks that everybody doesn't start off in life the same way that...
Because I'm saying, your parents didn't divorce, and my parents did.
My parents together, and, like I said, loving, caring, always looked after us, did everything for us, made sure we had the best life. And I did. I had the best life growing up. And I think it's a shame that we all don't have the same start on the same way, Everybody should come from a loving, caring family. shouldn't be
just like I've dealt with shit, and I'm like, well, dude,
Yeah.
I wish you kind of knew how I'm feeling.
Right.
You're like, well, dude, Joe, like I wish I did too, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's not fair. Life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And like you always say, I wish I had this magic wand, dude, to kind of make you snap out of it. I mean, I'm sure now that you've known me for a couple of years, you want that wand to be a baseball bat.
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so I can get a few good hits in first. Yeah. And I think that might help you.
Yeah. As you pull a billy club from underneath the desk.
Joe, let me give you some good advice.
Exactly. So, you know, because we're both heavily involved in the film industry here in Buffalo, I've had some numerous accomplishments, and so have you. You know, you've worked with a lot of big people, and you know, you've done stunts from time to time. Mm-hmm. I know there's a couple shots in a couple of my films. You know, I had you peel the makeshift Charger
cop car to the
incredibly badass, dude. I'm like action, and then all of a sudden you just hear woo, and I'm like, he's fucking talented.
Well, I was lucky enough to actually be friends with Hollywood stuntmen, and I got to work with them over the years. So
I don't know if you're actually able to name any of them, but what have you saying you actually worked in Hollywood?
No. I've worked with them at different events and helped them like get ready for different stunts that we've done over the years. So when I was a youngster, there was a TV show on called The Dukes of Hazzard. My favorite show. General Lee, Bo, and Luke Duke with Daisy Duke started the whole Daisy Duke thing. Right? But every week on that on the show, they would jump a car or crash a car or jump it over a lake or a pond or something, and the stuntmen that worked on that show were phenomenal, and I got to be friends with all them guys, and we would do an event once a year called Dukes Fest, and we would bring all the actors, Bo, Luke, Daisy, everybody out. We would get all the stuntmen that worked on the show, and we would put on a stunt show. So those guys, I got to spend a lot of time with them, and they taught me how to do certain maneuvers with the vehicles and how to, you know, get prepared for stunts and with safe way. And it's funny because when they first started on that show in like 1980, they didn't have safety regulations. So these guys would be like, do these stunts, and they'd be in comas for no, seriously. They'd be in the hospital in a coma for like, 2-3 weeks. And it was that show particular that they started, the Stuntmen's Association got involved and said, all right, how can we start making stunts more safe for these stuntmen? And then, so that show was actually a turning point for the whole stunt world.
Really?
Yeah.
So you also have been able, very, very, very fortunate and lucky enough. Again, you said early in the episode you had goals, and one of your goals was you've always really wanted the Batmobile. The original with Adam West, that came out when, in the 60s?
That came out in 66. Yep.
And you have one of the Batmobiles. And how did you learn to acquire that? I mean, you wanted that for the longest time, and you set your mind to that. It
started the Dukes of Hazzard as a little kid watching this car jump over lakes and stuff like that.
The Dukes of Hazzard one.
The Dukes of Hazzard generally.
Yeah.
I went, I want that. And then as I got older and started maturing and then saw Daisy Duke, I went, oh, okay, I want a girl in short shorts too. Mm-hmm. But that's another story. But
Don't we all?
Right? So the car. So that was I said, okay, I said, all right, I'm going to be a fireman. I'm like, all right, I'm going to own that car. I'm owning it generally. I'm going to have one. And I did. And I saved up and I finally found one and got it and rescued it out of a field out in Missouri. Brought it back here on a trailer, and I spent like 2 weeks without sleep trying to fix it up. And I had my dream car. I was like, oh.
The General Lee.
The General Lee. That was my dream car. And when I was a little kid, there was my two favorite coloring books. Dukes of Hazzard, and I would only color the cars, and Batman. And I would only color the Batmobile. Was Daisy Duke in the She was. Yeah, she was. And I used to put like, Dear Jett, I love you. Love Daisy. And I'd be like, look, she wrote to me.
Yeah.
And they're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
But so those are my two favorite coloring books, and I only would color the cars, Batmobile and the General Lee. And then just one day, after I started acquiring all these other famous vehicles, the Starsky and Hutch and Knight Rider and Blues Brothers and things like that, Warner Brothers actually found me, and I created the website.
Like you're saying that like ahead of the studio, like actual someone from Warner Brothers studio.
Yeah. So I acquired these. These are replicas, by the way. but they all run and drive. And one of the representatives from Warner Brothers called me, found me online, and said, "Do you have a Batmobile? Because we're shooting a music video and we need a Batmobile."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I don't, but I'll find out some information." And I just started Googling it, and I found a thing on YouTube, a clip, and it was a guy in Rochester,
New York,
who had, Rochester, New York, an hour and a half away, that had a replica of the Batmobile that he built at his collision shop, and he used it to promote his car, and it had the phone number. So I called him up, asked him if he would be interested in renting out his Batmobile to Warner Brothers for a music video, and he goes, "Well, I was just about to sit down and list it for sale on eBay."
And then you told me, you're like, "No, fuck that."
Yeah.
Like,
I said, "Hold on, I'm on my way. What's your
Yeah.
address?" And that's how I acquired the Batmobile. And then so it's just I'm just fortunate enough to go. My two favorite cars as a little kid, generally in Batmobile, are in my garage that I get.
just goes to show when you set your mind something,
Right.
you can fucking do it.
And here's the other thing: if you're really into it, I think the universe will provide. Because I started getting in these cars, and literally they would be dropping into my lap. These cars would like, I'd get phone calls, or like my Starsky and Hutch car went to my girlfriend's family reunion down in Pennsylvania, Maryland border. Pulled in right next door to her grandmother's house. Starsky and Hutch car for sale. Turned out it was friends of the family, knew each other forever, and he sold it to me dirt cheap, under the condition that the following year I would bring the General Lee and give his family a ride in the General Lee.
So we got about 5 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
You probably like fucking thank the Lord, I like to.
No, this is great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I appreciate that. So this is the part of the show, as you guys know, I like to take the last 5 or so minutes of the show, and I pick a random movie that I chat about with my guest, and the guests do not know that movie, and then we just kind of talk a little bit about it. So, as you know, this is my favorite movie, and what I want to kind of talk about is the movie Forrest Gump. Great movie. Absolutely great movie.
Forrest Gump. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
All right, well then, you might as well just leave now then. Go ahead. The podcast episode is over. We're no longer friends with them.
Okay,
So.
all right. Good.
You're like, thank God. Okay,
Right?
great. No.
Oh, that's all I needed to do?
No. So, what's your opinion on that movie?
Yeah, one of my top.
We only got 5 minutes here, so let's.
Yeah, one of my top 3 favorite movies. Absolutely. I mean,
Is it really in your top 3?
top 3?
Because it's number 1 for me.
Is it?
So out of all the films you've ever seen in your life, it's top 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
I thought you knew that.
No.
As a
I
matter of
thought
fact,
I was the biggest Forrest Gump fan in the world.
well, I mean, I've been taking acting classes with Frank Rossi for over 10 years now. And he always starts off comedy improv section of the class with me being Forrest Gump. And he'll put me in all these weird situations. Forrest Gump as a pizza delivery
Do me a
guy.
favor. I know you do a couple different impressions. Do an impression of Forrest Gump saying that he's honored to be on the Joey Barone podcast show.
Okay, here we go. Joe, thank you for bringing me onto your show. I really appreciate it. You're the best.
Yeah.
You're like a box of chocolates that's all melted from the sun.
You think it was Robert Zemeckis, the dude that filmed that? Great director. Very good job.
Love
directing
Robert
that
Zemeckis.
movie. Castaway was a really good film.
Yes, it was.
One of my
I mean,
top films.
how do you get a top-selling movie, one of the top best movies of all time, with like 2 pages of dialogue?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Wilson,
Yeah.
like here you got this guy talking to a fucking volleyball on the beach. What's your favorite scene from Forrest Gump?
Favorite scene from Forrest Gump?
My favorite scene on it is like when he's Jenny has left him multiple times.
Right.
I feel like any dude can relate. If
Yeah,
you're dating
yeah.
a girl and she kind of leaves and stuff. Forrest Gump kind of has a breakdown, and he's sitting there, and the camera pans up from his shoes upwards, and he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do something that makes no sense. He literally runs across America.
I just ran.
Yeah. What's your favorite scene out of Forrest Gump?
My favorite scene is the ending scene where he goes to Jenny's cemetery and he talks about little Forrest.
Like, he's like, I don't know if it was Lieutenant Dan or it was Mama. I think we all have a destiny. That's my horrible impression of Forrest Gump. I can't do it as good as you. But you think that rings true? Like, everybody has their own destiny.
Oh, for sure. Yep. I knew I was put here to be a fireman because I have the mental capacity to deal with these terrible situations that we get put in. And luckily I was built where I'm able to put that aside and do my job. So I knew this, it was my path. I knew it was what I was meant to be. We all have a calling. We all have something that we're good at. We just got to find it and then follow that
and
passion.
stick with it.
Well, just, follow that passion.
Some people
But you know what? But some people will try this and go, maybe that's not it. It takes a while sometimes to find what your thing is. But find your thing. Don't ever give up. Be passionate. Find something that you're passionate about and follow it.
So, to kind of wrap the show up, if it was up to me, we'd go on for another hour, but these episodes are already pretty long. I do want to say I love you, buddy.
Love you.
I appreciate you coming on the show. And then just to kind of wrap it up, I'd like you, because you do a couple of really great impressions, and we did talk a little bit about Elvis early in the show. I'd like you to kind of do your impression of Elvis here. That's absolutely phenomenal. And just kind of say, thanks you guys. Thank you if you can look in this camera over here real quick. If you want to move this over this way a little bit, and look into this camera here and do your Elvis voice and say, it's been a great episode. Thank you to the viewers that were tuning in, and just tell them to stick around for the next episode in a few weeks and to like and subscribe.
Okay.
So go ahead and do it in your Elvis voice.
You should be a director.
Yeah. I am. You didn't know that?
No.
All right. I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. I had the greatest time here, man. This cast's cool. All right, and thank you all for joining us today. And man, we really hope that you come back next week and watch another episode. Okay. So y'all, be cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. It was a pleasure meeting you. Take care, man. Maybe I'll have you on the show at some point in the future.
Sure, that'll be great.
So this is my great friend Jett. Thanks for stopping by. And then I just want to wrap it up, you guys, and just say, like Elvis kind of reiterated, thanks for popping by. Hit the like and the subscribe button. And I will see you guys next episode. I love you. Appreciate it.
Couldn't share, babe, while she suffered.